Nothing in nature blooms all year. When I look out the window, all I see is brown. My son even pointed it out this morning. Everything is so very, very brown. The trees, the grass. It was early when he noted it. And so there was something about that winter sunrise that even gave off like a brownish amber glow. It's the end of January and literally the depths of winter, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. I know that we have so many Australian listeners. So for y'all, you're probably at the point where you're feeling hot and sweaty. You see the other side of this. I mean, yeah, literally the other side, like the other side of the world. Everything for you is lush right now. Or maybe it's even past that and it's too hot and things have started to die from that heat and sun. For us, we're at the point where we see that tiny hint of green or hear that little chirp of a bird and we get that excited feeling. We know what's coming just that bit down the road. Watching the ebb and flow of nature is such a reminder of the cyclical nature of life and the inevitability of change. With its intricate patterns and rhythms, nature is such a metaphor for the human experience. Nothing in nature blooms all year. That encapsulates that universal truth that life, like the seasons, is always going to be marked by periods of growth, as well as periods of blossoming and times of decline and times of renewal. I know that I find peace in understanding that life is similar in its series of ebbs and flows. Just as flowers bloom in the spring, they eventually fade and make way for new growth. And just as my grass is that luscious brown right now, one day I'm going to notice that, wow, the grass is green. When did that happen? It all serves as a gentle reminder that we need to accept the impermanence of all things. Society sets us up to fail. They give us that concept that we need to be constantly growing and succeeding. It's totally an unrealistic expectation. And so the reminder that nothing perpetually blooms, it offers me a sense of relief and gives me the permission to embrace the natural cycles of life. And like the changing seasons, our lives are characterized by different phases. Some are vibrant and full of energy, and others are quieter and much more reflective. And there is beauty in each stage of life, even during these moments of apparent dormancy. And just as winters prepare us for the rebirth of spring, our periods of introspection and rest are essential for our personal renewal and our growth. This challenges that societal pressure to be in a constant state of productivity, and it emphasizes the importance of rest and recovery and self-care. So today, can you accept and understand that balance? Rest and recovery are necessary in all areas of your life. Just like in nature, it will help you to grow and succeed because nothing blooms all year. Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome to another episode of Reframing Me. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Brubaker. So, my kids, they went back to school today. And no, I did not pre-record the show. This isn't like Christmas break. I'm still the hand-to-mouth podcaster that you all know and love. Today is actually January 25th, and my kids, they have yet to have a full week of school since I don't even know at this point. I would guess that first week in December or at least early December, but who even knows at this point? It could be January, it could be September. I have no idea. And it was 20 degrees last week and it's like 70 today. So I have no idea what is going on anymore. Now, my kids' school district, they have the end of their semester mid-January. And of course, mine was like early December. And so it's like they have had the craziness then of December and a long break. They come back to school for like 2 weeks, which of course includes Martin Luther King. And then we had a strange couple of days of storms that never really turned into storms, but they still led to cancellations and early dismissals. And then they had their exams. Both they had their teacher-made exams and then their state exams. And if you didn't have an exam, you were still supposed to be there, but like you would just sit in your classroom for 5 hours. So of course, if you had the absences to spare, you stayed home. So my kids, they have been in and out for weeks. Some days they ended at the normal 3:40 and some ended at like noon or 1. Some never even started. Literally zero pattern to anything for weeks. One day, my middle, he was like, I'm not really having any fun on this break. I'm like, you are not on break. I just got your absence notification from school. So, it doesn't help, of course, that I am teaching entirely online this semester in the graduate program, which has like an entirely independent 7-week schedule. And so I can honestly tell you that I have not known the day of the week or the date or even the time of day at any point the entire month of January. And they started back today. So it's a Thursday. And so it's like, have a great week. And then it's like, happy weekend. My husband, he has been traveling for work, which means we don't even have him coming in and out or getting up or anything to kind of delineate our days. So we've kind of been hibernating. And this bit of cocooning off has really been amazing. It's kind of been like a nostalgic throwback feel to when they were little and it would just be us in our little cocoon. Now they've had some friends in and out, but it hasn't been as much as normal. Probably it's because of that strange structure of things, like just like my kids haven't had normal schedules or been on the same schedule at all. I think their friends are all working on entirely different schedules too. And so even though I love having everyone around, it's kind of been wonderful to have it just be us. It's given us a lot of opportunities to talk about things that we don't usually get to talk about and to have me notice things that often slip by me when we're busy and running around or there are crazy distractions everywhere. So today we're going to have a conversation about a couple of the many things that came out of our conversations. We're going to start off by talking about why it is that teens feel oftentimes like their parents, they don't know anything, and why they prefer listening to and taking the advice of others. It's how you can say something, anything really, and it either goes in one ear and out the other, or it's the stupidest thing that they've ever heard because we literally know nothing. But then it's like someone else says the same thing and they are totally on it, right? And of course, we're then going to be able to talk about that age-old question of why do teens rebel? I mean, really, they're rebelling mostly against their parents, but often they're equal opportunity rebellers against anyone who tells them what to do. So, okay, because I have been very attuned to the teenage mind recently, we'll start off by trying to understand the world through the eyes of a teenager. It's so important for us to recognize all of the developmental changes that our teens are going through. That lets us approach the challenges that we face with them with some degree of empathy. Now, these teenagers, this is a time for them for self-discovery and exploration, for forming their identities. They're trying to figure out who they are, what the world is, and how they fit into it. I mean, it's a lot when you look at it that way. It's kind of overwhelming. I mean, if I asked you to do that as a prompt, okay, if I said, who are you? What is the world? What is going on in the world? What is available? How do things work? And where do you fit into this world? I mean, oh my God, that would be incredibly overwhelming, right? For even us to answer as adults, let alone with a developing teenage brain. I mean, honestly, writing that prompt hurt my head to even put that together. And I know that I absolutely don't want to need to answer any of it. The one thing that we have on our side is experience, right? We know that not one of us could answer those questions. And more importantly, we understand enough about all of them to know that we don't need to know any of it now or really even ever. We know that we are constantly evolving and constantly changing. We know that we are entirely different people than we were 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20, or 30. And we also know that we'll continue evolving into different iterations of ourselves. And we know that the current version of ourselves is just accumulation of all of those previous iterations that we've gone through. And we know that that is okay. It's how it's supposed to be. And it's how literally everyone is. But to our teens, they don't know that. They look around and they think that they are the only people who don't have their shit together. They think that they need to know where they want to be at 25 and 35 and 40 and 50, and they need to know what they want to be and who they're going to marry and when and where they're going to live. They feel like they need to have it all figured out. And they don't even know where they want to go to college. And they think that everyone else knows everything already. And just because they see Zoe and she's sure that she's going to marry her boyfriend and have 3 kids and live at the beach, all right? And they see Emmy and she's going to go to med school and she knows where and she knows what kind of doctor she's going to be, or whatever plans their friends have. They think that they have the answers, and our kids, they don't even know where they want to be in the fall. They think that everyone has a plan and they don't even know what they're interested in. What they don't realize is that the great majority of those with a plan, it's not even going to happen. There is so much life to be lived and so many twists and turns along the way. And we know that that's the fun part of life. Those twists and turns, they're the great things. I know I just told my oldest last night, I'm like, can you imagine how boring the next 80 years of your life would be if you actually knew at 17 how things were going to turn out? But to them right now, it's all just so overwhelming to process. And then because we do know this and we do realize that they don't need to have all of the answers, we may unintentionally be belittling their concerns or even stifling their dreams. We may be bringing a little bit too much of that quote experience into our advice. Even the things like, oh, you don't need to worry about that right now, or it's not that big of a deal. I mean, yes, we are probably 100% right. But I know that when someone tells me not to worry, it certainly isn't like, poof, it's gone. Wow, thank you so much for fixing that for me. I hadn't realized that I just needed to stop worrying. Wow. I mean, no one has ever stopped worrying because someone said stop worrying. And it's not a big deal. When has that one worked, right? If it feels like a big deal, it's a big deal. And those are just examples of the totally little innocent platitudes that we give them. So of course, there's going to be a lot more that we don't even realize we're doing. And so our teens may feel that despite our best intentions, we may not fully grasp the challenges and the complexities of the modern teen experience. My daughter told me one day, she's like, you're so old. It's not like it was in the 1900s. The 1900s? Are you kidding me? I mean, let me get my damn horse and buggy and get out of here by candlelight. I mean, Jesus, just slap me next time. It would probably feel better than that. Obviously, the parent-teen relationship is quite a complex and dynamic mix of emotions and expectations. it is really important for us to recognize that our teens are growing and they are going through major transformations, like their physical growth, their significant cognitive, emotional, and social changes. They're developing their own thoughts, their own opinions, their own beliefs, and those may differ from ours. As teens start to navigate all of the challenges that come with this whole process of self-discovery, they're working on forming their own identities. And these identities are the ones that are separate from us. So this desire for independence, it sometimes can lead to a perception that parents are totally out of touch. It's not like it was in the 1900s. Now, psychologically, this phenomenon can be attributed to the natural process of individuation. So it's where the teens differentiate themselves from the parents to establish a type of sense of autonomy. Teens may believe that their parents don't understand their experiences or interests or struggles. And this it sets the foundation for understanding why they may seek guidance from someone else other than us, why they think we don't know anything. Now, of course, if there is one thing that we do know on this show, it's that effective communication is absolutely fundamental to any healthy relationship, and definitely the relationship with our teens. Often it's a breakdown in that communication that can end up leading to the belief that, just like Will Smith told us, parents just don't understand. Now, a common complaint among teens is that they feel unheard or dismissed by their parents. This communication breakdown often just comes from a lack of open dialogue or understanding. Parents may inadvertently contribute to this breakdown by adopting what's called a didactic approach. This is more of an instructional or authoritative style. And I know I am 100% guilty of the instructional part of this. I give them my wonderful words of wisdom, but may not actively listen to their perspective. We think we're just trying to teach them, right? But it can contribute to them actually not taking our advice because it's much more of a one-way approach. Like, we're telling them how it is. And this, it can make them feel as though they have very little say or no autonomy in their decision-making. And if they're seeking independence, they're going to resist advice that feels like it's imposed on them rather than collaboratively discussed. I know that my kids' friends, they are always much more receptive to my advice than my own. But I also know that I tend to do more listening and less advice giving to them because there's always that piece of me that is kind of biting my tongue more with them, like holding back because, well, I'm not their mom. But with my own kids, it is game on. I am their mom. So lucky them, they're going to get all of the advice. Now, realistically, if I did treat them a bit more like I do the others, like hold back more, listen more, they'd probably be more receptive. It's crucial for us to create the environment where they feel like they are comfortable expressing themselves without a fear of judgment. Again, I can admit that I probably do this more with others than I do with mine, albeit inadvertently, of course. In fact, I had a conversation the other day with one of my son's friends about college applications, and he hasn't applied, and the deadlines are approaching. But of course, I was like, all cool, mom, right? I was super chill about it, giving him some advice and words of encouragement. Now, if he was mine, well, I would say that I would have been like, you need to get those applications in right now. But honestly, I wouldn't have let him get to this point. So, I mean, yes, I try hard to be non-judgmental with my kids, and I know I am definitely not authoritative at all. And I think I do a really good job of being open and being kind of a good listener and giving them more than like a one-way street. But it is definitely different with others because it's always different with our own kids. Our own kids, they're our responsibility. I mean, I know that I have often defended myself when one will say, well, so and so does it. And I'm like, well, I'm not so and so's mom. Our kids, they're a reflection of us. Of course, we're going to be less chill about them and about their decisions than we are about others' kids. And we do know that ultimately, when it comes to other people's kids, we can only do so much. No matter how much we care about them and about their futures, we know that ultimately we can't make them do anything. And there are influences on them that we cannot control at all. So yes, we have the ability to be less judgmental of them than of our own. But we absolutely need to foster as little judgment in our relationship as we can if we want to make it more open and communicative. When communication is a two-way street, teens are going to be much more likely to share their thoughts and their concerns, which will foster a sense of mutual understanding. Now, lest we think it's completely our fault, if only we were more open and understanding and a better listener and less judgmental, if only, right? Well, it's a bit more than that. Now, in this digital age of social media and constant connectivity, teens find themselves constantly immersed in a digital landscape, one that extends far beyond the confines of our little family circle. This influence of external voices and diversity of opinions on social media has absolutely shaped the way teens perceive and the way that they interact with everyone, including us and all of our infinite wisdom. Their friends and their peers and celebrities and influencers, they often become very powerful sources of information and validation. And the allure of these external influences, it's going to create a unique lens that our teens see the guidance and the advice that we give them. And it can contribute to their perception that sources outside of our family circle are giving them more relevant and relatable advice. One significant aspect of the influence of social media on teens' perceptions of our wisdom comes from their direct exposure to diverse perspectives. Now, unlike us or previous generations, today's teens, they have access to a huge array of voices, opinions, and lifestyles. I mean, think about it. Social media platforms, they give us exposure to all different perspectives and thoughts on everything from politics and social issues to personal experiences, lifestyle choices, like everything. And now this isn't new. It's always been the role of media. I mean, back in the 1970s, they described media as our window to the world, which that's great. That allows us to see things and learn things that are totally beyond our own experiences. But what it also does is broadens teens' horizons and it introduces them to alternative viewpoints. And sometimes these may differ from the values and beliefs and ideas that are coming from within their family. Now, because of social media, they're getting exposed to information earlier than before. You know, with us, it was probably like, say, when we went away to college and started to see things and meet people and learn that there are other ideas that exist out there that, we may have thought in the past that everyone did this or everyone thought this. But then we'd start to see that, wait, they don't. Well, now they're just seeing those other perspectives and that they exist earlier through socials. The diversity of voices on social media, it can lead to a much more nuanced understanding of the world for today's teens. They may even encounter perspectives that may challenge or may complement the ideas that we are giving them, which would, of course, either reinforce us or make them question us. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that this is a wonderful thing. I do not believe that my perspective is the only perspective, or that my thoughts and beliefs, they're the only, quote, right way to think or believe. Absolutely not. I completely appreciate, and I have always encouraged my kids to think critically and to come to their own thoughts and beliefs about things. So, kind of along those lines, this exposure, I think it helps them to encourage critical thinking and to develop independent thought, and it allows them to form their own opinions about the world around them. However, it does, of course, also introduce the potential for conflict with our good old parental wisdom, especially if the views that they come across on social media clash with the ideas that are instilled by their family. Now, another influence of socials and the constant connectivity is that teens may begin to seek validation and approval, not only from their immediate family, but also from those online peers. And this desire to fit into online communities and to adhere to social media trends, it can sometimes overshadow the influence of parents, which, of course, to us as parents can be threatening. We know that our teens and that teens in general, they crave acceptance. I mean, we're social beings. We all crave acceptance. But in our kids' search for acceptance, they might be much more inclined to prioritize the opinion of others in those social circles over the guidance that we offer them as their parents. They know that we will like them and we will accept them regardless. This shift in focus, it can strain the parent-teen relationship much more than in the past as teens navigate that delicate balance between our family values and the desire to belong, to fit into a broader group. Another factor to consider is the curated nature of social media. This perfectly idyllic portrayal can totally contribute to a gap in perception between the idealized lives that they see portrayed online and the realities of their family dynamics. I mean, just like we look at our tired, makeup-free, hair in a messy bun, sweatpants selves, right? And we may feel a little inferior to celebrity Instagram photos. Apples to oranges, right? We know that, well, actually, it's probably like apples to French fries, totally different. But we can even fall into the trap of comparing ourselves and our real life hot mess to celebrities and their perfectly curated Instagram worlds, right? So just like that, teens may compare their family experiences with those carefully crafted narratives that their friends or influencers that they might present on social media. And this can make them feel inadequate or dissatisfied, or even impact what we tell them and do for them. And for us, it's hard to compete with those pretty pictures and those seemingly perfect lives that they're seeing. This can totally come back and be a potential barrier in their willingness to communicate and listen to us. So, how can we make this better? Well, the first thing we can do is revisit our old words of wisdom, right? A key to our happiness and joy and peace that we have said again and again. Don't take things personally. As you can see from what we've just said, it literally isn't about us. There are so many factors, from that natural psychological need to individuate from us to seeing others' perfectly curated Instagram posts and like a bazillion other things that we've talked about in between. It isn't about us, so don't take it personally. Yes, my daughter thinks my sister knows everything and is the greatest. But you know what? My niece thinks Aunt Jen is pretty awesome. I realize the why behind this. So I know that it is not about me, and so I don't take it personally. Similarly, when we're just hanging out and doing nothing at home, and they see their friends living this perfectly curated life, it makes them question me and our life. But if I can help them to be media literate and realize that social media is not reality, then maybe that can help a little bit. And on the positive side, social media, it also offers a way for us to connect with our teens. We can actively engage with them on socials so that we can also get insights into their online interactions, what interests them, their friends. This way, we can navigate conversations about the content that they see much more effectively. I know that by knowing kind of what's in my kid's algorithm, my algorithm has kind of gotten set to it. And so we're seeing a lot of the same things. I know some people are weird about it too, but I see absolutely nothing wrong with being my kid's friend's friend on Instagram. I mean, I know that even back, when I was a younger professor and I would have some of my students as friends on socials, I didn't think anything was wrong with that. I love seeing my kids' friends' pictures. And if they can't let a friend's mom see it, then really they shouldn't be posting it. And they don't. They save that shit for Snap stories. But I send my kids reels. They send me reels. And yes, some are probably inappropriate, but they're watching them anyway. So even if I cringe a bit inside and think, oh, my precious baby boy, or whatever it is, at least I know the things that they're watching and they're seeing. And I would rather they show me an inappropriate video that they think is funny than not be part of that world because I'm being judgy. I see things that their friends post and will often even comment about something that so-and-so posted. Just the other day, there was a student-run unofficial page on Instagram for their high school that posted something scandalous. And one of their friends was surprised that I knew about it and that when we were all talking about it, my son's like, oh yeah, she follows the account. And then we all talked about it. So if we can understand their digital landscape, we can provide context and guidance when things like that come up online. But to navigate this complex landscape, open communication like this is critical. We need to foster the environment where our kids actually feel comfortable discussing their online experiences or raising questions or actually seeking guidance from us. Now, sociologically, this overall shift in influence, it reflects the broader cultural changes of how information and content is consumed. So we need to recognize the impact of these outside influences on their beliefs and choices. If we can engage in open discussions about media literacy and critical thinking, we can empower them to navigate it all much more consciously. And if we create a safe space for a dialogue like this, we can address any concerns or misconceptions that come up from the influence of social media. And really, by actively participating in our teens' online lives, it allows us to bridge the gap between their virtual worlds and their family worlds, which does help to ensure that our wisdom stays at least a little bit relevant and a slightly valued source of guidance to them. But what if they just won't listen? So many moms that I talk to have some degree of rebellion that they're dealing with their teens. I know it is the worst, but rebellion to some degree is a natural and expected part of adolescence. Teen rebellion stems from a combination of those biological, psychological, and social factors. It is normal, and to some degree, it's a necessary part of their developmental process. Just like everything else that we have our conversations about, if we can understand the reasons behind it, we can navigate it a bit easier. Okay, so 6 reasons why teens rebel. Well, first, their biological changes. Those changing bodies and hormones. The same hormones that influence their moods and their emotions, they can also influence their attitudes and behaviors. And that prefrontal cortex that you hear about not being developed on them yet, that is responsible for decision making and impulse control. Now, their limbic system is what controls their emotions, and that has already developed. So they have an imbalance there that biologically leads to risk-taking behaviors and rebellion. Number 2, one of the same reasons that they don't want to listen to us, that individuation. It also makes them rebel against us. They are in that process of forming their identity and exploring different aspects of themselves and their values. Rebellion can be a way for them to assert their independence and establish that sense of self that's separate from us. And that need to fit in with their peers and gain social acceptance, that may cause them to rebel against our family norms or to align themselves with their peer group in order to seek their validation and their sense of belonging from them. Number 3, just like George Washington and the revolutionaries, our teens are striving for independence, and so they may resist authority figures, including us and their teachers, and maybe the British, like George. Their rebellion serves as a way for them to take control over their lives and to test boundaries and establish limits, and essentially to learn about consequences and responsibility and what's socially acceptable. Sometimes we do take for granted that they should know these things already, but this is how they learn, as annoying and awful and frustrating as it may be. Number 4, our relationship with them can make them more rebellious. Yay, we're causing it. Awesome. Parent-teen relationships that have more of a struggle for control also tend to have more rebellion. The shift in our relationship with them during these years involves that renegotiation of authority and control. So teens rebel as a way to challenge our rules and expectations, and again, to seek control. That's why some of the most rebellious kids have the strictest parents, and the least rebellious ones often have more laid-back parents. If we have poor communication with them, or we are just not communicating that we understand them, or we understand what they are going through, it absolutely contributes to rebellion. When they feel like they're misunderstood or unheard, they may resort to rebellious behavior as a way to express their frustration. Just like with toddlers, and I guess revolutionaries, now that I think about it, acting up gets attention. Number 5, those damn external societal and cultural influences, of course, they play a role in shaping rebellious behavior. Cultural shifts, media portrayals, societal norms, they can all impact the way that teens express themselves and rebel against what they perceive as societal expectations. Just like we already talked about, our teens have increased access to information through the internet and through social media, so they are exposed to a huge range of ideas and lifestyles. This exposure, of course, can influence their beliefs and prompt them to question established norms. And number 6, when teens face emotional challenges or stress, or social issues, or academic pressures, or family issues, or anything that feels insurmountable to them, it can lead them to rebellious behavior as a coping mechanism. And let's be honest, there are some teens who may engage in rebellious activities just as a way to seek excitement and thrills. And so their risk-taking behavior can be an outlet for their need for novelty and stimulation. So if that's the case, then like a toddler, maybe finding them a better outlet for this can help to redirect their energy. But overall, just like the other family issues that we talk about, understanding that rebellion is a normal part of teen development, it can help us to approach it with patience, empathy, and effective communication. I mean, obviously, it is quite essential to distinguish between this healthy exploration of boundaries and potentially harmful behaviors. We're talking more about the healthy exploration of boundaries. But if we can struggle less to understand the motivations behind their rebellious action, we can better approach these challenging moments with greater empathy and more understanding. Thank you so much for being here and for spending this time with me. I know how valuable your time is, and I am so grateful that you spent it here. If you've enjoyed the show, this episode, or any of them, please share with your friends. I know that just this week, I shared a couple of other podcasts with friends. There is so much content out there, and I know that everyone appreciates those recommendations. And regardless, I know that I would be very appreciative of you forwarding the show. And please take a second to rate it, maybe even review it if you like, because that is how algorithms work and how we can get more attention to our lovely little community here. Please follow the show so that you don't miss out on any new content. Reach out to me, Jen at reframing-me.com. And on socials, those pesky socials, on Instagram and TikTok, I'm at Reframing Me. And on Facebook, it's Reframing Me. And please join the Facebook group, Reframing Me, the podcast community. Thanks again for coming along with me on this journey. Until next time, be well and communicate.